What's up, y'all? In this video we're going to take a look at this half mortise desk lock that came in locally. In fact, this one was not mailed in. This one is a local bring in of several, and this was the last one that I have to do. This one's a flat steel key, and unfortunately, if you can tell by this, I've started scraping the area and I've actually already scraped off the top. The problem with it is somebody came along and varnished across the keyhole and across the latch. So I'm having to scrape the latch right now, and I already had to scrape the varnish of it around these edges. I'll show you in a second. But a lot of times I get the question is, how do you know which, I need that specific key. This thing says it's a eagle, old eagle emblem right there. It's actually got a key code of something A9W4. It may be listed somewhere, but you know what? It's just as easy, relatively speaking, to make a key for it, because here in the U.S., unless you do a lot of safe and vault work or a lot of safe deposit box work, you don't really have a code machine for cutting flat steel keys. And if you have one of those machines, you do a lot more of that work. I do a lot of this work, but I've never bought one of those code machines. Yeah, it's kind of pointless here in the U.S. Overseas, different story. So anyway, this is like a 2-lever, I believe. Yep, we got 2 little levers in there. And I just found, basically, if you have a few different, this is the D-Bolt 1028. There's a 1028L, but we don't need it long. So basically, we just, first step is to just find the blank that is the right thickness. And you do that by sticking it in right there. Once you get one there, because they are different thicknesses. So once you find one that goes in there, again, this was not turning at all. It was frozen in position. In fact, it was frozen like that. So I had to come in here and scrape away, and there's still a couple of little remnants. If you sit and turn it, you'll see a little goo somewhere up here that I still need to get. Maybe not. I don't think I may have gotten it all, but I had to scrape around this whole circumference, as well as what I'm doing right now that I've got the key cut down. Once you find the right thickness, make sure it's long enough, which this one will be. Then we're going to take the tip and we're going to cut it down, and we're going to do that, if you have it in your hand, by going to the back and seeing how much needs to come off. So in this case, we would just take a Sharpie like this, put it in the back, and we know that we need to get rid of pretty much half of this tip. So we're going to cut that off just to leave that little nub sticking out, making sure this is still parallel. And then we're going to cut down the top. So what we did there, we're just going to I just ground that on a grinder. We took off that much just on a bench grinder, and then smoothed it back down. Once I got this turning, stuck this in here and made sure by looking through this that this was sticking out far enough. All right, so I took this and I turned it. Yeah, it was about that way. And this was before I cut this notch. And then I just made sure that the tip, you can't really see it, but it's back there, is sitting flush up against this back wall. In other words, you want to make sure that this is parallel, perfectly vertical. Once we get all that done, you come in, you put it in, and you mark your key right at the face of that. Boop, just like that. Then you mark where it needs to turn, just like this. Doop. And then you put your little notch in it until you get a turning key. And that's where we're at. Now we just have to cut the actual cuts of the key. Again, when we're doing this, if we have a springy action, which that's kind of a springy action, we can see this one going up right there. You've got a lever here, and when you turn the key, you've got it pushing up. That means that's the cut that we need to cut down, because it's going so far up. The bottom of that pivot in there is hitting this when it comes up. So right, boom. And to make that not hit, we have to cut where that is. So we could do that just by holding this right here and looking. If you didn't have the lock in your hand, you could smoke it. So we're going to go over here and we're just going to smoke it on a candle, just like that, in that tip area. Now, every so often you'll run across ones where even when you get this cut, it starts to turn and it stops. Sometimes there's actually a ward down that barrel. I run across a few of these where the barrel, in like halfway through, has a ward in it. In that case, you would just do this to see go all the way across. But for now, we're just working on the tip. Get us a good smoke on it. And we need to turn this way. Put a little bit of pressure on it. And it should give us a pretty good mark. Since both levers aren't moving. Come on out. So it was giving us a mark regardless of that. If you can see right here. Right there. That doesn't look right for some reason. We're getting a false mark here. That is not right. Alright, well, let's see. Basically at that point then, it'd be another easier way to do this without having to kind of guess where that is. Let's come in here. We know that it's that lever right up against that. We're going to be cutting the key from this direction. If you're filing it, just do it on whichever side you're going to be filing from. And we want to stop it right there. Yeah. And mark it for, mark it for the bolt. So we know not to do anything with that yet, and then mark it for each lever, so that one's about right there. So we need to cut between those two lines, basically. And we're gonna use a machine for this, but again, you could take a file, like a Harbor Freight file, as long as it's got the cuts on the edge of it right here, and you can just file down, but that takes a little too long. All right, so we're just gonna use this guy for this. Never know if it's too deep or not. I feel like it's not deep enough already, but we'll see. Take it a little bit at a time and you'll waste less keys. So I went ahead and smoothed off the little rough edges there. Give it a try. The key is going to be a little tight, like I hadn't finished the key yet. I don't finish the key until we get the cuts down. So, let's see what that does. Still raises it up. Let's see if we're lined up on the wafer. It could be a little bit. It could be a little bit wider towards the bolt. That one's almost perfect. But it's still catching right there, so I'm gonna put it back on the machine and bring it that way a little bit. All right, brought it that way a little bit, and let's get it smoothed down again. Just keep smoothing as you go. It'll be less finish work in the end. Okay, let's check that. It is indeed falling on the right side that it's supposed to be. So now let's see what happens. All right, so now we're hitting the bolt. See that? So that means we need to go down on the bolt side, which is actually maybe kind of part of the finishing process, but we're just gonna go down a tiny bit right there on the tip. Which again would be easily done with a file, even a big file. fact, it'd probably be better to do it with a file. Because it's more precise. Okay, let's see if that clears it. Not much is needed, I don't think. A little bit more. Oh, okay. Now our front lever's lifting up. See that? That means we need to cut down on the front lever. Which would be right here. Again, little by little. All right, we still got a hard stop now, and neither lever are moving, so that's definitely the tip. The tip. To check. Down a little bit more. All right, now we got some more springy action going on. Now both of them are raising up. That means both of them need to go down equally. Second wafer's going up a little bit more than the first wafer. First wafer closest to me. So we're gonna go down with that first. Figured it'd be a little bit deeper. We're going to go a little bit here. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Again, part of the process, and will help you eventually with smoothing out the key. Oops. What's going on here? Well, that second wafer is still raising up pretty good bit and making it stop. But again, we may have some actual problems with this being stuck in here. You know, we may get a key and totally make the mistake of cutting the key too deep, and it's all because this varnish is holding it. Let's go a little bit deeper there. All right, took the closest to the bolt lever down a little bit. Wafer, lever, whatever you want to call it. Technically, it's a lever wafer. Get that flash out of there. Okay. Don't at me about going back and forth with the file. These are Harbor Freight files, and I could care less about them. And it's been proven it doesn't hurt. The 40-cent file. Not really worried about it. Oh, there we go. We're getting somewhere. It went a little bit further that time, and both of them are pushing up equally. Now I feel like we're getting into range of the problem with the varnish. But that second lever does need to go down. First lever's looking okay though. Second lever definitely needs to go down. Okay, go down just a little bit more on this number 2. And we went down another, pretty much what would be a full depth. Again, get rid of the flashing. The key's getting a little easier every time we do this to insert. All right, I feel like we're there. I feel like we're there, and it was just sticking, and that turned out that was the case. Oof. So we need to get rid of this little edge problem here. Just gonna scrape that varnish. Probably wire brush this, but I'm just going to scrape the corner edges right now. No, hold on. Before you lubricate it. Okay, now let's see where we're at. Gonna hose it down with Houdini real quick. Alright, so that front lever went down too far. Look at that. We're gonna have to start over. See how it's not lifting it up enough for the bolt to clear? Oh, there it goes. There's a little catch right there. What is this? No, it is lifting it up enough. Actually, it needs to go down a little bit more. Just not much, but just a little bit. Okay, go ahead and start the finishing process here. Ah, yeah, there we go. We didn't mess up. I thought we messed up. I think I may have not had the key pushed in far enough. Because it actually looks like it does need to go down a little bit, but it doesn't. See how it's got that little notch right there. Little notch in the lever. Doesn't give you much clearance. So I think we're good. And we're going to finish it, make sure that is level. Yep, we can actually do this. So this really doesn't matter since it doesn't have wards or anything in it. You could take it all the way down, but the more key that's here, the better. Less chance of the key twisting or whatever. Go ahead and give the key its own brush. And as a finale, we're going to go ahead and hit it with some old 1200 grit sandpaper. Okay. And put our maker's mark on it, which is a little bitty tiny. Let's see. Check it one more time since we did technically modify it just a tiny bit there. Ooh, it's even smoother. Look at that. Alright, so that is basically how you knock out a little two-weaver cabinet mortise, half mortise lock. Very commonly used in, you know, 40s to the 60s. And you don't need an eagle key for it. We're using a D-bolt key for it. It's working really well too. Wow, I'm impressed myself. Doop, 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 doop. Okay, so anyway, thanks for watching, y'all. If you have any questions or comments, post them in the comments section. We'll catch y'all next video. I'm gonna call this one, another one out the door, next one in line. This guy. This is a surface mount, I believe, for a safe that was actually mailed into us. So that's another one I gotta do. I'm knocking them out one by one.